Alrighty guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video on how to clean a pistol. So you can see right here I've got my pistol out in front of me. I've got an empty magazine right here so there's no bullets in it. I've got my cleaning equipment right here. I've got weapons cleaning solvent, a cleaning oil, and then a little rag right here, and then the cleaning mat. For cleaning, again, that's really all you need out on your table. You may need a few little different brushes and stuff, and I'll show you those throughout the video. But this is a 9mm pistol. This is the Smith & Wesson SD9 VE, which I will be doing a review on. I've said that in previous videos. So to start off, I'll show you nothing in the chamber. It's an empty gun, empty magazine. So what I'm gonna do is I'll take that back down right here, and all guns take apart differently. Some are very similar. The Smith & Wesson SD9 VE takes down very similarly to a Glock. As you can see, there's this little switch here that is on both sides. So what you're gonna have to do is you just pull your barrel back. I don't even know how far that is, a millionth of an inch, and you're gonna put your nails in there, push that switch down. They do make extenders for this because it is pretty hard to get your finger in. Let's see. I guess it would help if I didn't have it cocked from when I did that. Alrighty, so now you see I have my polymer frame, which includes the mag well, the trigger assembly, and the springs, and then my Picatinny rail right there. So for now, I'll just set that to the side. I will be doing a little bit of cleaning on that. But the main part of your gun is obviously your barrel, your spring, and then just these rails that the gun slides on right here. So what you'll do is you'll just go ahead and pop your spring out, set that aside somewhere you won't lose it, and then your barrel can lift up and get pulled down like this. So now, oops, you've got your few little parts here. And that honestly is all you need to take apart for a standard cleaning. If you've beat the crap out of your gun and you need to take it apart a little more, you're welcome to, but all the main things that are going to be getting dirt on them or anything are all accessible from this stage right here. Alright, so when I start cleaning my guns, and you may all have a different way of doing it, a better way of doing it, this is just personally how I like to start cleaning my guns. I like to start with my barrel. My barrel, to me, is the most important part of my gun. That's where the bullet's gonna be. That's where it all happens, right here inside this little chambered area. That's where it happens. And so what we're gonna do is I'll set these off to the side so I'm not getting stuff dripping on them. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this stage 1 solvent, and you can find this at Shooter Lube. It's an American-made product, and they were kind enough to send me a bottle of it to try out, and I've actually really liked it. And so this stuff dissolves quickly. There's not really anywhere on your gun you can't get this. They also send you this little cleaning rag right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray this barrel down, and then I'm just gonna start wiping it. So when you're cleaning a semi-automatic handgun especially, one of the most important areas to keep clean right here is this little ramp. So when your gun is feeding, this is called a feeding ramp or a slide ramp, whatever people want to call it, your bullet actually hits right here and is sent upwards into the chamber. And so over time, that area can be caked and it won't be a smooth slide. And so I always just use Q-tips because I'm cheap and I don't have a ton of stuff like that, the fancy brushes or anything. And so what I like to do is I just really try to polish up all the little nooks and crannies on my barrel. You got this little hook here. I try to run stuff through there. With Q-tips, you do have to be careful because you can leave behind some fibers. And so I agree with you. If you say this isn't the best way, I agree. It's just what I have, so it's what I use. All right, and so I've got a few more things. I do need to get a wire brush and get more at this carbon buildup that's happening right here. This isn't going to affect the performance of the gun right now. This little bit on the slide ramp or the feeding ramp may cause some weird feeds, but it looks like I was able to scrape it off there. Sounds good. So another thing we can do right here, let me lay this out, is I've got these little bore snakes right here. And my brother-in-law actually gave me this for Christmas this year. And what this is you may have seen it for a shotgun before, but this is a 9mm bore snake. And so what this does is you thread this little brass end down through your barrel, and you're going to pull it through like this until you start going into the barrel. So what you're going to see is you've got just this really soft cloth right here, but further into it, it's got 2 sections of wire bristles built into it, which those are probably really hard to see, but there's these 2 wire bristles with a space in between. So what I like to do is I like to take my gun oil right here, and the section between my 2 wire bristles, I like to just give that a little bit of oil. You can even do a drop or 2 down the barrel if you want. And so then what you're going to do is you're just going to get that rope taut, and you're going to start pulling it through. And it's going to get tight right there where the bristles are at, and you can kind of hear it scraping. And then the rest of that cloth that gets even thicker at the end is just going to pull out any carbon or any lead buildup that you may have had, any scoring. And so I usually do that at least 2 or 3 times, just to ensure that my gun is getting the cleaning that it needs. Any semi-automatic, anything is going to require cleaning to function at its best level. And so as you can see there now, if you look down the barrel, you can see my rifling nice and clean, no scoring in there. And so that's really going to help with my gun's performance. And so I'll set this to the side. I will add a little more oil at the end as I reassemble the gun, just to make sure there's no friction or anything with that. So next I usually go to my slide. So with this slide, obviously you can do the same thing I did before. You'll take your cleaning solvent, you'll spray that up, and then you're just going to want to wipe it down, make sure it's nice and clean. Something I've noticed on my guns, and if you shoot with gloves you probably won't have this problem, but these little finger grooves here for helping grip it to cock it, I get dirt from my fingers in these little grooves, so I like to just take my cloth and rub through those. The oils from our hands and stuff aren't great for metal, and so the more of that we can get off, the better. So I'm just kind of clean out the outside of this gun, and it's pretty hard to get that rag on the inside, so I just kind of paint it off with a Q-tip. And then here you need to be careful because you can see the fibers are getting bad, so I'll get a new Q-tip. Just kind of clean this off a little bit more. So you can see I'm getting tons of carbon off of this right here. Keep dropping it. Another Q-tip. So yeah, this was just from that slide right there. You can see all the different carbon that was built up in there. And so if you do want to just cheap, easy way to clean a gun, Q-tips do work. But again, I'd just be careful with it to make sure you're not using it so long that the fibers start coming off in your gun. Alrighty, and so we'll set that aside. We'll do our oiling last. Right here, this is the polymer frame. And this part really doesn't have a ton of things that need cleaned. I usually cleaned these little rails right here that the slide goes on, just to make sure that they're nice and clean. I'll actually probably just put some of my spray on a Q-tip. And you can see right here, this thing's pretty black. And so as I clean it, it just gets nice and shiny right there. Same up here. And you'll notice cleaning a gun that some of these stains or these carbon buildups won't be removed with just a simple cleaning. And that's where you do need to get out a wire brush or some kind of bristle thing that's not going to scratch your gun, but that can kind of take away at that outer layer. Alrighty. So now what we're gonna do, you really don't have to worry about your magazine. If it's having problems, they do come apart. You can take a magazine apart and clean it out, but I've never really had a problem with any of my magazines doing that. All right, and then lastly, this is your guide rod and your spring. And so what this does is when your gun fires, we know that there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so as the bullet goes forward, the slide is sent backwards by the pressure of the bullet. And this spring right here actually slows the slide down and then sends it forward again, reloading another bullet for you. And so this is actually one of the most important functions of a semi-automatic weapon, is the spring. You can get lighter springs, you can get heavier springs. The factories usually have a slightly heavier spring, which isn't a bad thing. It's all just preference. So if you're not comfortable with it or don't understand it, just stick with the spring your gun has. And so this is my factory spring. I haven't upgraded it at all. It is a plastic guide rod. I probably will upgrade that to a steel guide rod just so it never bends on me. But I haven't had issues with the plastic one either. And so what I'm going to do now is I'll go backwards this time, and I'm going to oil it. So this is the Shooter Lube Stage 2 oil. And this is a protectant as well as just a friction reducer and a heat reducer. And so my guide rod, I don't think you need a ton of oil on there. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I like to just oil it just to make sure that it's not going to get rusty or anything. And this oil, a little bit goes a long ways. They have these little needles on the tip of them that let out just a tiny bit of oil at a time. I had another bottle of oil that's lasted me probably a year and a half now, and I haven't even used half of it. Cool. And so with these, you're just going to get that oil on there. I like to kind of rub it around, make sure that spring's coated well so that it's not going to get any rust or anything on it. Next, I like to take my gun, and a lot of times you should oil everything, honestly. But one of the best things to do is just take a look at your gun and notice where it's getting the most wear and tear. A lot of guns are different. This gun, for example, I've noticed wears a lot more on my left side, which I'm not going to put oil on my left and not on my right, but it's just something to notice that may require attention later on. And so what you can do is you're just going to put a bead of oil on a few of your different slide components. I like to reach down in there and put some on my springs, my trigger housing springs. And this just, again, keeps springs fresh and tight. Any moving part of your gun, if you add oil, it's going to help it. You don't want to over oil your gun, but a little never hurt. Alright, and then I usually just get a clean Q-tip, take the excess oil, and just kind of rub it. And even with this Q-tip, I can actually feel the slickness of it. And so we've got that all cleaned up and oiled, so we're going to set that to the side now. So next we're going to take our actual slide portion of the gun. And so as you look at the top and stuff, you're not going to want to get oil anywhere on this exterior, which I'm getting a little on it with my hands. I'll wipe that off at the end. But the main focus of oiling your gun is going to be this exterior slide rail right here. So as you look at your gun, you're going to take your oil, and I like to just run it down that whole groove there. As your gun moves, it'll even kind of distribute this oil for you on its own, just with the movement of it. So I got my oil down those two grooves there. I like to take my oil and run it down these different areas. You may have seen it when I was doing the stage 1 over here, that there was a little bit more wear right here. You could see where these rails on the handle had actually kind of worn into this metal. It wasn't gouging it out at all, but you could tell that it had been wearing on it. So I like to put some oil down in here, get that nice and slicked up. And the oil even kind of helps clean it a little bit as well. It's not its main purpose, but it does kind of pick up those last few components that you may have missed. Something else that I do that I don't know if it's recommended, but just to help my gun last a little longer, is I put my oil on my Q-tip and I run it around the inside of the slide barrel area as well as the guide rod area. And hopefully that'll just reduce any friction that may be happening as the slide blows back. And so I'm gonna brush this stuff in here really quick, and then I'll show you right here. So with my barrel, if you remember, I oiled down the barrel when we did our little bore snake, but I like to do a little oil on the barrel itself. And just a tiny little bit. I've noticed if you do too much, it actually makes the gun really dirty really fast. So I like to just kind of oil it and then almost brush it all off. It just kind of gives that last little coating that'll hopefully protect it if any humidity or anything goes in there. And so now it's time to reassemble. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your barrel in there like that. You can see that it fits very snugly. You're gonna get your guide rod, which we did oil. And so you put the smaller end of the guide rod up into this little hole here. So as you go in there, it's not gonna fit just loosely. So you actually have to kind of compress the spring and get that centered on there. So now you can see the whole upper of my gun is reassembled. And so you'll feel as you work with this, unless you keep your hands really clean from the oils and solvents, that you are getting more oil and stuff on the gun. And so I'll show you what I do with that. But really quick, you're gonna line these little rails up with the rails on the back of your gun here. And so it's gonna go on, and then there you go. So what I like to do kind of just at the end, I don't want to get a ton of this on there because it will take off some of the oil. But if you remember, we didn't put any oil on this exterior at all. So if you go just very lightly, this will help you get all the oils from your hands off of this. And you will be caulking this back and stuff, so you will have more oil get on it from your hands, just natural skin oils. But that's why it's important to clean this and keep it nice. Alrighty, so there you go. That's a clean gun right there. Man, I can't stop dropping this today. Trying to hold it lightly so you can see all the parts of it. But like I said before, you don't have to clean these. I will just kind of give it a quick little brush off with this. I haven't ever done it since I've owned the gun. So if there's any dirt or anything on here, there we go. You don't want to oil your clip, because if you don't put it in tight, that oil is just going to help it slip out. Yeah. Thanks to TacX Pro as well for this gun mat. As you can see, I've dropped this gun like 3 times today. This is just a nice little rubber mat that helped protect it for when it fell or when I just needed to set a part down. So there you go. Here's the empty mag. And then you can just hear. You could hear it go like that. Just sounds a lot cleaner, a lot crisper. You'll notice those first few rounds you shoot with this as you take it to the range, gonna be so much cleaner, so much quicker. You'll just really enjoy having a clean gun. We'll hopefully have a video on how to clean a rifle, maybe even a shotgun here in the future. But for now, please enjoy this video and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.